Line Books present the audiobook of Overpopulation, the Hidden Agenda for Global Reset. Episode 2, Occipital Worm. Scene 7, Banks and Billy to Lord Martin's office. Banks had attended an unscheduled meeting at Lord Martin's city office, which might mean anything from trivial to catastrophic consequences. The views from the DM offices were never anything less than charming. Since opening in the 18th century, their location close to St. Paul's had been surrounded by bars, banks, and barristers, which in the modern era of superabundance had become subject to architectural excess. The result was the Celery stick, an 82-story tower of green glass with strong vertical ridges that diverged as they rose. It was a fortress, and like most banks, it was run as a de facto nation-state. An imam would have had more chance of leading the Knesset than the public entering the Celery stick. Their meeting was up on one of the upper floors, where Banks had pre-warned the Lord of what Rashid had told him, that the Russians were working with the Chinese to bid for Warwink. Lord Martin started.
"Philip, you have met Valentino?"
"Yes. Hello, Valentino." Valentino was a slick and stylish Russian who worked closely with Russia's shadow Peter.
"Hello again, Philip."
They had last met in St. Petersburg.
"First on the agenda, Warwink. Billy."
"Last week we bid 1.88 trillion. However, a competitive bid has appeared, an Italian rival with Chinese backing."
"Right. Down to business."
The Lord sounded brisk.
"I'd like you to work with Valentino on this one. Peter wants in on Warwink. How to rid ourselves of this hostile bidder? Billy?"
We could bring IFGG into the picture. They are liquid, AAA rated, maybe bring another 100 billion cash," suggested Billy.
No. I don't like it. Valentino.
We could tie him up at FIPA with anti-competitive practices.
Yeah, it could work.
Valentino's expression did not change. The Russians were masters of the poker face.
"I would like you to approach Premier Li Xiaoping. Ask if he would like to buy Warwinks with yourself. Set the price at 1.75 trillion.
Why?
China will outbid, but not by too much. Their margin will be slim."
All eyes moved to Valentino, whose jaw appeared to freeze. Suddenly, he didn't look so cool in his pale blue slacks and silver shirt.
"We'll consult with Nikolai."
He referred to Peter, his boss, the Russian shadow. He made his farewells, then exited. Once Valentino had left, Lord Martin became animated.
"We cannot trust him."
Next, they debated what they might do to unsettle their Italian rival. Banks knew that it never paid to tell a shadow what to do. The art of winning an argument was to lay before one's opponent the clues that would lead them to the conclusion you were striving for. He aired his thinking thus. "Vitellius is heavily invested in battery technology. His firm Volta Spazio recently supplied the Chinese space station Confucius-1.
"I see. And what do you propose?"
"If something were to go wrong—"
"Such as?"
"Their batteries were to fail, perhaps?" A smile broke across Lord Martin's face. Banks continued. "Confucius-1 would crash from space. 13 Chinese astronauts back to Earth with a thud." The Lord sat back in his chair to consider. There were times when he would allow the mechanism of finance to oil itself. Then there were days like these when he would step in and adjudicate, sometimes without the faintest understanding. In some cases, projects that were consumed vast resources might change on a whim. Most people would wait for the shadows to reveal their opinion, then support it no matter how implausible.
What makes you think that Spazio Volta's battery technology will malfunction?
They won't, replied Banks. We will shoot them down.
I like it! Our Chinese friends will not regard Vitellius with such favour when they find their space station in bits. Get on to Cambridge. We shall bring that bloody tin can down ourselves.
Eventually, everyone left except for the Lord and Banks. He wondered if his father had ever spent time with the Lord in the same room. His whole life had been guided towards working at Delange Martin, a fact he had only recently discovered.
What is it, Philip? Lord Martin remained staring at him.
Why was my father's career kept secret from me? Lord Martin glanced at the floor and for once appeared to be assessing his response.
He wanted as normal an upbringing for you as is possible.
And my scholarship? The Lord laughed convivially.
Come now, Philip. There were things we did for you that we needed to.
Banks was successful, about to marry, but the recent revelation of his father and the deceit of his upbringing shaded his every decision.
What is it you wish to do with your life, Philip? Aren't Zara and you both happy living here in London?
We are.
I recall my first marriage. Very happy.
When did you marry?
Oh, let me see. 1850. Oh, crazy times. The music was so much better then. Dormily, formally.
Lord Martin began to sing,
Everybody sought her, the rat-catcher's daughter. Ah, them's the days, them's the tunes. And the fashion. Oh, they were times of great change. We ruled the world. Not like today. Too many people destroying our planet. I can't fly to South America without commercial jets taking up my airspace, and I have had enough. Your father calculated that 1 billion could service our every need. Were there a button before me I might press to eliminate all 7 billion of them, I would gladly press it. Oh, yes, we tried war. Bad business. Infection, infertility, insanity, that is how we shall achieve our objective. Your father worked it all out. Spiron. That is the answer.
The Lord groaned like a washing machine on slow spin. Then a deep burr emanated through his bloated barrel chest.
Charles was one of the best analysts I have ever worked with. And if it so pleases, I shall indulge his memory in making sure that you have every opportunity to succeed in my organization. But do me one thing.
Of course. What is it?
Read your father's book. Only you have the key to understanding it. I don't know why, and I don't know how, but it is you, and you alone, that can unlock the key to the final solution.
I will.
Good.
Banks knew Lord Martin to be the oldest man alive, but wasn't sure if this was just a figure of speech.
Now I would like you to leave.
No sooner said than he clutched at his side and yelped in agony. The door flew open and Maid rushed in. The Lord's eyes were squeezed tight. He was in obvious pain. He shooed Banks away with a wanding of his hand, while Maid massaged his ribs vigorously, as if she had done so many times before.
Ah!
His knees buckled, and he fell to the floor and rolled onto his back. Maid instantly fell over him and began checking his breathing. "He is out! His heart has stopped!" She looked up at Banks, who looked around for some way to call for help. "Hit that button!" Maid pointed to a button, which Banks had not noticed before. He slammed the button. "He needs CPR. Help me!" Banks knelt down alongside Maid, who opened up the Lord's shirt. "Now, I want you to push as hard as you can, here, with the heel of your palms." Banks placed both his hands on the Lord's chest and pushed. "Harder!" "How many times?" "Just keep doing it. Do you know the Bee Gees?" And the maid began singing. "Ha, ha, 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 staying alive, staying alive." "Pump his chest to the time of that song." "Okay." Maid continued. "Ha, ha, 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 staying alive, staying alive. Ha, 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 staying alive." Banks pummeled the Lord's chest harder and harder. "Are you sure? I mean, I don't want to break his ribs." "It hardly matters." After a couple of minutes, the Lord suddenly bolted upright and took in a massive lungful of air. Banks and the maid backed off, alarmed yet relieved at the return to life.
"What are you doing? You... How did I get on the floor?"
"You fell, my lord."
"Did I?"
The Lord shooed him away and stood.
"Well, must be getting on. That will be all."
The Lord turned his back on both of them. Maid looked at Banks, who decided not to broach the subject. Once outside, Banks experienced a flashback of himself and his father. He looked up at his father and recognized every aspect of his face, and suddenly recognized the depth of his parental love, the need to see him succeed, the concern for his future, the advice, support, and guidance he had wanted to offer, the doors he had wanted to open and pathways he had wanted him to take or avoid. A life not dedicated to the grand vision is a life wasted. He was just 8 years old. "Father, can we play?" he had asked, and for the first time he recognized the pained expression that watched over him, the face of a man troubled. Scene 8. Sensory Deprivation Tank. Zara had asked to meet Banks at 6 p.m. in Covent Garden. They kissed and held hands as they walked amongst commuters heading towards Leicester Square. Zara had booked a session in a sensory deprivation tank off Wardour Street. They were both given towels, then instructed on how to use the large pastel green chambers, which were filled with a few inches of slightly salted warm water. The idea was to climb into the tank and float, naked, in the water. Then, by using internal buttons to seal the chamber. Once comfortable, the lights would fade to darkness, leaving you suspended in total silence. Once the staff had left the room, Philip stripped and climbed into his chamber. With a little practice, he achieved equilibrium and found himself floating. To his surprise, Zara climbed in with him. "What are you doing? It's only made for one." Although cramped, she managed to fit in alongside him. The lid closed and the lights faded until they found themselves in total darkness. "Philip." "Yes." "You did take off everything, didn't you?" "Yes." There were horny possibilities to their situation, but he wasn't sure that this was what was meant to be happening. "These tanks don't just block out noise. They prevent radio waves and electrical signals too." "Oh, extra," he thought. He might take the initiative and slipped his hand over her breast. "What are you doing?" She removed it. "I brought you here to tell you something. Bit extreme, isn't it?" he said. "They have bugged your office and your suite at the Lancaster Gate Hotel. They are monitoring everything we do. Even your suit is bugged." Philip attempted to move and bumped his head. "Oh, I can't see a thing." "I love you, Philip. You have a strange way of proving it. They are going to tell you I am a spy. But believe me, I love you. I really do." "What?" "I was a spy, but not anymore. I'm for real." Banks swallowed hard. Did my fiancée just say that she is a spy? He lost balance and splashed about a bit. "Philip, who were you spying on?" "You."